funding. They also don't have the systematic approach to the organization and all of that stuff. So they can learn from you. But the question is, how do they work with you?
Yes. We do have seminars from time to time that are organized by the Beijing office. That the invitation generally is open to people in civil society, government, academia, and it's a chance for all who are coming to share their experiences and challenges and explore possibilities for collaboration. So perhaps we can exchange contact information if that would be of interest, and I can put you in touch.
And you mentioned also in your early presentation, you have people specifically working with the government organizations. And from what we know is that the traditional mentality against the NGO, especially quite a few of them got shut down in the past few years. How can your organization help in this particular subject? And I'm talking about they are actually doing nothing but just library.
Yeah.
Just library for teenagers, even they got shut down.
Yeah, it is a challenging environment. We mentioned at the beginning, so we have the institutional capacity building program that is focused around these 7 capabilities, and one of those is about building capacity to work with government, and it has some principles involved in that. What is the underlying orientation towards the government? So very clearly for Badi Foundation, it's there to contribute in China within the context of the government's policies and regulations, and it's not there to fight the government or to undermine the government, but to work really in collaboration. And I think because over the course of the foundation's history and the history of the CBOs, that has been clear. That has created space for the foundation and the CBOs to continue. But that doesn't mean that there haven't been challenges or misunderstandings, but there have been some seminars the foundation has done also on this area of collaboration with government. It's more focused on the grassroots level. Right now we're actually in the process also of renewing our own registration in China as an overseas NGO under the new overseas NGO law. So there's always complication and challenges. It's not always a clear process, but the main things have been the orientation towards government, and really having that the CBOs and the foundation itself, every step of the way, are, to the extent possible, consulting with the government and both sharing what we're learning and what our challenges are, but also gaining insights from the government from its own policies and priorities.
And then from the website, I downloaded the 2016 annual report.
Yeah.
The management fee is only 100,000 RMB last year. How can you support 2 offices, 5 employees with this money?
The management fee for
only 100,000 RMB.
Oh.
To know.
For maybe this is for the CCF fund?
No, this is your Badi annual report. I think it's the CCF fund. I don't know. This is from Badi Foundation 2016 annual report.
Yeah, that might be the management fee for the CCF fund, which is the 3% that was mentioned earlier. So those funds are mainly used to support registered CBOs. But then there's also about the foundation's overall budget for its other operations in Macau and Beijing, and also the grants that the foundation provides to the unregistered CBOs. Altogether it's about $1 million US, the total budget. So that includes all the staff and all the various expenses and also the grants. The majority, the biggest single expenditure out of that is actually the grants to the unregistered CBOs that are provided directly by Badi Foundation. But yeah, I'll look into that. I think it must be the 3%, because that's a very low figure.
Has that number been increasing, or the annual budget?
It's been fairly stable. Yeah, because of some of these developments where usually what happens is some cost will be reduced in one area and then increased in another area. So what was mentioned earlier about reducing the staff in Beijing, but then we might increase the amount that's being provided by grants to the unregistered CBOs. So the vision so far hasn't really been to grow very large. It's kind of maintaining the current size, and I think one of the questions earlier really touched on it in some of the comments in the video. The CBOs are really looking at how to reach more people in their local context. So before expanding to too many new areas or too many new CBOs, it's really looking at how a CBO can be very effective locally, and then building on that learning to expand to more of them. So that the budget isn't growing very much at this stage.
Do you see any challenge in renewal of your?
All the signals have been positive. So the foundation was invited by the Ministry of Civil Affairs to comment on the draft overseas NGO law, and the indications we've gotten is that it shouldn't be a problem, but it seems like there are waves of different organizations being approved at different times. So the first round was organizations that had very high diplomatic connections, and then it's moved on to other organizations. So we never know until it's finalized, but we've had some very positive indications from contacts.
Is this CBO development the only activity and project the Body Foundation do, or Body Foundation have more areas?
So in mainland China, it is mainly the CBO development, but there's also a program to share what's being learned at the grassroots with government and civil society. So there's a staff member in Beijing that's the main area of his work, is from time to time organizing roundtable discussions or seminars involving government, academia, corporations, civil society, and sometimes some of the CBO staff will be invited to these forums to share their experience from the grassroots. So that's another line of action in mainland China. Those are the two main things. And then in Macau, we have a school that's kindergarten through secondary with about 650 students. And we also are, the moral empowerment through language program that some of the CBOs are carrying out is also being carried out by the Badi Foundation directly in Macau with local schools in Macau.
At the very end of the film, I think your Beijing rep mentioned that there are 4 different regional groups, and she wants to work more with other institutions. What kind of forum or any communication channel you have right now with the peer NGOs in China in just collaboration and all that?
Peer NGOs, so we do have a relationship with the China Association of NGO Cooperation, KANGO. So through that, some Badi Foundation staff have done some training for other NGOs in China, focusing on some of the institutional capacities. And then, the other main thing would be this collaboration line of action through which we have had periodic roundtable discussions and seminars. But it's pretty small at this stage. It's something that I'm sure can be developed more in the future. The main channels have been through KANGO and through the roundtable initiative.
The words I got from my context there is that they're trying to make a very, very small foundation, because once they go regional or nationwide, they got attention, they got a lot of supervision and all that. How do you guys handle that?
Yeah, that's actually been maybe part of the reason the foundation hasn't grown too large as well, is that it's I think a bit safer not to be too large. And so we're staying around 30 CBOs, a few staff in Beijing, a few staff in Macau, but at the same time learning, improving, refining the approach, the programs, and reaching more people at the grassroots, and just having very open communication with the government. And the foundation is always very happy to share what it's learning in different fora, and also learn from others who are working in the same field. And then I think over time the principle really is organic growth, like growing gradually, depending on where the opportunities are. And, but yeah, different people have different views, but it seems like the vision isn't really to get very large and be in every province, and you know, so it's kind of the situation currently.
And there's a little bit mismatch between what she said versus what you said. You say from 20 years and older and women. And then in this film, and she talked about 12 to 15 and women. So exactly what is the focal?
Yeah, I think I mentioned 12 to 15 in the PPT as well. So it is, yeah, it's 12 to 15. That period, no longer children, but also not yet adults, but as being a critical period in one's life.
Now, will Body Foundation considering new program helping with the rural area child? Because I think once the rural area women getting more self-conscious, they have desire to go out to the village and probably go to the city. They want the same paycheck as a man, so they will left their children and they left their field in home. Because it is also a big issue in China right now. Both the parents go out and the children staying home and elders taking care of the youngers. And they're lonely and they're afraid to talking to others.
Artificial offers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Will they consider a new program? Yes.
It's actually interesting you mentioned that, because the two, from speaking with colleagues, they said the two main issues that the rural women have raised as being areas of interest have been child education and health in rural areas. So at this stage, I think it's mainly due to lack of resources. We haven't been able to develop a new program focusing on children, but there is actually a pilot project which is working with a kindergarten program for ages 3 to 5 years old. It's actually being done in Beijing, so it's starting in an urban setting this time. And the idea is to kind of test it out and see its suitability for China. And then perhaps down the road, that could be something that could be used. But it's definitely something that has been identified by the rural women themselves as being an important need in their communities. And some of them also will undertake their own initiatives to address that. So that's another important aspect.
So your fund from mostly from overseas, or?
So for the CCF fund, that is almost 100% from within China. But then for the rest of the Badi Foundation's operations, it's combination of Macau, Hong Kong, and US, and then a few other overseas donors as well. So it is mostly from overseas at this stage.
Now, is the CCF source funding come from governments or come from the local donors?
Local donors, individuals.
What are the most important things for running CBOs?
I think almost universally, it's one thing is perseverance. Like every single CBO has stories of great hardship they've encountered. You know, some people it's been lack of trust, or you know, just it's almost universal that every single one of them has some big challenge to overcome. So if they give up easily, it won't last. The others are being open to learning. So not always thinking that one has the answer, but really being open to finding new insights from their experience, from their colleagues, from other sources. And yeah, I think those actually have been, it's not even necessarily a certain educational requirement. There's some of the staff of CBOs have very low formal education, but because of these other, you could call spiritual qualities, they've really been able to contribute. Like Mo Ting, who was in the video and also in the PPT, when she first participated in the Badi Foundation activity, before she started the CBO, she was so shy, she didn't say a word the whole seminar. She didn't have confidence to express herself in Putonghua. But then one of the staff in the Beijing office looked at what she had written in terms of her vision of her community, and it was a very beautiful vision of people working together and having balanced development in the community. So they invited her to start a CBO, and then you see that she's having a tremendous influence in her community. She's worked with over 200 women, and they're doing ongoing trainings, and so it's really, I think, that sincere desire to serve and willingness to persevere and to learn have been the most important factors from what we've seen. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.